Power surges signaled the pre-dawn disaster as the strongest quake here in 40 years tore apart the earth and jolted Southern Californians out of bed and onto the floor.
And we were just about, 10 feet from our sliding door where we could go out, but we couldn't get up.
It's the worst one we've had that I can remember, and I've been in California now for about 50 years.
And this one lasted a long, long time.
It'll pause for a few seconds and then start again. And there's a lot of noise with it. The glass is breaking.
And for a terrifying minute, everyone wondered if this was the big one.
The whole house was shaking, kids and all, and it was a pretty frightening experience.
It rocked and swayed through remote desert towns about 100 miles east of Los Angeles. The roof of a Kmart fell in. The front wall of a bowling alley collapsed. This Circle K store and its owners knocked for a loop.
Really scary when you got car payments and house payments and everything else. You know, this kind of disaster bothers you.
Dozens of injured people arrived at area hospitals, most with minor cuts and bruises from fallen debris. And so far, one death, a 3.5-year-old boy crushed by a falling chimney. And then, the earth moved again. Everyone expects aftershocks, but nothing with the wallop of the 6.5 magnitude quake that buckled this mobile home park.
I got a cat in there, a 17-year-old cat I'm trying to get. She's over in a corner. I don't know if I can get her out.
The epicenter of the second quake is some 40 miles from the first one, in the mountain town Big Bear. So far, damage appears heavy.
Try and keep it, just all the provisions that you'd need to survive for 72 hours.
A lot of Californians may need their earthquake survival kits. Seismologists now say there's a 50% chance of more damaging aftershocks.
I felt real scared for our lives, really, because I didn't know if it was going to keep going, and I didn't know if we were going to make it. This is Disneyland compared to my office.
But today, even Disneyland wasn't the happiest place on Earth. 1,000 tourists evacuated the hotel when cracks broke through a wall.
Shoot, man, shoot!
And today's double thriller is forcing a lot of people who live in the California desert to wonder, is it really worth it?
I've never seen anything or felt anything like the shaking that I felt. It was absolutely terrible. I'm still real scared. And right now, all I want to do is get the hell out of Joshua Tree and go somewhere else where there isn't any earthquakes like this.
An emergency alert is in effect for San Bernardino and Riverside counties, some 80 to 100 miles east of Los Angeles. Residents are warned to stay home and avoid driving on the freeways. President Bush has contacted California Governor Pete Wilson to say the federal government will do whatever it can to help. Seismologists are not certain what having two major earthquakes back-to-back means. There's also concern that one quake hit near the San Andreas Fault, which many fear will someday produce the real big one. But make no mistake about it, what happened here today was in fact rather frightening, and it would have been even worse had it happened near a major urban area. Edie?
Ron Allen, thanks very much. Correspondent John Blackstone traveled to Yucca Valley today, and he joins us now. John?
Edie, it's the people and the buildings out here in the desert that took most of the shock of today's quake. And for the rest of California, that was lucky, because had two quakes of this magnitude hit where the population is more dense, where there are more buildings, and certainly the damage and injuries would have been more extensive. The epicenter of the first quake this morning hit in the isolated mountain town, or rather the isolated desert town of Landers. Just getting to Landers was a struggle today. The roads across the desert showed how much the earth had moved, breaking and buckling the pavement. In the town itself, simple mobile homes were bounced off their foundations.
We got this crack going all the way down here. You can see how the trailer, this is where it originally sat, where the fence line is. It went 3 feet north and a foot east. After about the third shake, we felt it, and then it rocked, and then when it hit hard, about the second jolt, it just went.
For Brian Twait and his family, it was the ride of a lifetime, but nobody was hurt.
We found one of the kids under the dresser drawers, but she was all right. She was a little scared.
Just next door, the quake was more damaging. The first jolt this morning set Robert Elkin's house on fire.
Saw the fire coming out of the water heater door, underneath the water heater door. So I tried to get the hose, and there was no water. The water was gone. So by the time the fire department got here, they started on it, and then they finally quit because they said it was too engulfed. They couldn't save anything at all in it.
Most of Landers is without water. The town's 2 million gallon water tank was buckled like a beer can by the shock waves. 5,000 people live in Landers, mainly retirees and those who love the desert. Today, every one of them is cleaning up. But people out here in the desert are accustomed to isolation. They're feeling a bit more isolated than usual out here now, with telephones out and the roads damaged. And of course, the desert absorbed most of the shock of these earthquakes. What has been damaged is what man's built out here. Edie?
John Blackstone, thanks very much. Texans today are recovering from a natural disaster of a different sort. 6 tornadoes roared through the Texas Panhandle last night, injuring 9 people, destroying more than 100 homes and damaging another 200. Power lines are down, cars overturned, trees uprooted, and roofs smashed in. The hardest hit area is some 330 miles northwest of Dallas. A body found in a southern New Jersey pine forest last night was identified today. And it is Sidney Reso, the Exxon executive, abducted outside his home at the end of April. Regina Blakely has details on the case and the couple who may be charged with Reso's murder.
Investigators confirmed today that 12 hours of combing through a thick, tick-infested state park in southern New Jersey led them to the badly decomposed body of Exxon International president Sidney Reso, who had been missing 2 months.
The location of Mr. Reso's remains was extremely remote, well guarded, and it would have been difficult, if not impossible, to have located under any other circumstances.
Although authorities refused to specify how Reso died, it's believed he suffered a heart attack just days after his April 29th abduction.
Nobody can say that a man who dies in captivity, having been abducted from his family, and having been held against his will, died of natural causes.
2 weeks ago, police arrested a New Jersey couple after they attempted to pick up ransom money. Arthur Seal, a former Exxon security guard, and his wife Irene were reportedly in financial trouble after he lost his job and demanded close to $20 million for Reso's return. Both have been charged with extortion and kidnapping. Officials would not confirm if Mrs. Seal directed investigators to Reso's body.
It remains unbelievable to imagine that individuals driven solely by greed can end the life of an individual at 57 years old.
Reso's abduction from the driveway of his suburban New Jersey home led to the most extensive FBI investigation since Patty Hearst was kidnapped nearly 20 years ago.
Sid, please, if you can hear me.
And that investigation led to Mrs. Reso appealing for her husband's safe return. Authorities appear to believe Reso was already dead at the time of the plea. Authorities say they will continue to look for others who might have been involved in Reso's abduction. Meanwhile, prosecutors plan to file murder charges against one or both of the Seals this week. Regina Blakely, CBS News, Morris Township, New Jersey.
Still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, French President Mitterrand winds up his daring mission to Sarajevo. And Bill Geist on America's dream Olympic basketball team.
Well, I thought college kids didn't need sleep. You need coffee.
I got that.
Freeze-dried? Welcome to Coffee 101. See, mine's darker. It's decaffeinated Folgers crystals from mountain-grown beans.
My classes ended yesterday.
Mine's still darker. Taste.
This is good.
Now you're talking.
Hey, I am, aren't I?
Decaffeinated Folgers crystals, so dark and rich. Shouldn't you switch?
Of 144 different import and domestic cars, only the elite make J.D. Power & Associates' top 10 models an initial quality list. That list now includes the Oldsmobile Cutlass Ciera. We believe it reflects the commitment of the people who make it and the dealers who sell it, as well as the wisdom of the people who bought it. Cutlass Ciera from Oldsmobile, the power of intelligent engineering.
Flakes? What can I say? I mean, they look kind of stupid just sitting there. Lights out, nobody's home. I mean, look, there's no fruit, there's no raisins, there's nothing in here. There's something about this. It's kind of simple. It's really crunchy. You know, I like them.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes? Cool.
Taste them again for the first time.
A potential major development tonight in breakaway Bosnia in what used to be Yugoslavia. Serbia's news agency says Serb forces have turned over the Sarajevo airport to the United Nations, clearing the way for an airlift of relief supplies. Earlier, there was a dramatic attempt at personal diplomacy by the President of France, as we hear now from Bill McLaughlin.
Francois Mitterrand's unannounced, unexpected visit to the besieged Bosnian capital astonished Europeans who greeted it as either folly or bravery.
Well, it's a brave act by an elderly president to underline the dramatic nature of people suffering. I think I take my hat off to him.
The airport's been closed for almost 2 months, and there was fighting on the fringes as a heavily armed UN convoy greeted the 75-year-old French president. Instead of the usual limousine, Mitterrand was packed into an armored personnel carrier with a hair-raising trip to downtown Sarajevo. There, people came out of their cellars and shelters to welcome a man they greeted as a savior. And touring a hospital desperately short of medicine and supplies, the president said French military relief flights were en route. Mitterrand's visit was designed to embarrass the Belgrade regime. Today, it had more than enough problems at home. The largest peace demonstration to date. At least 100,000 marchers swarmed through Belgrade's streets, demanding an immediate end to the bloodshed. At its head, leaders of the Orthodox Church, the democratic opposition, and a potent symbol for many, the heir to the Yugoslav throne.
And even after a war, one has to come around the conference table. So let's cut out the war, get the conference table going.
President Bush applauded the Mitterrand mission.
Well, we ought to get together and do whatever is necessary to get humanitarian relief in there. The United States will do its part. We always have.
But as Mitterrand discovered as he prepared to fly out, the airport's still not a very safe place. And it's not yet clear if his dramatic trip was a hollow PR exercise or the beginning of the end to Sarajevo's suffering. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News, London.
Residents of a black township in South Africa are making final preparations for a day of mourning tomorrow when victims of the June 17th massacre will be buried. Martha Teichner reports.
Any other time, today's funeral for 4 African National Congress marshals supposedly shot by police would have classified as a major event. But in this season of political killing, after the Boipatong massacre, this was only business as usual. Boipatong has overshadowed everything else. Today, families of its victims gently, sadly claim their dead. More than 40 people were killed. In the back rooms of funeral parlors, mothers and aunts and sisters fussed with coffin frills so fatal wounds wouldn't show. And then the bodies were taken home for the traditional vigils that would last the night in Boipatong. Philip Flyweight Mtsibi lost his wife, his sister, and 2 children. With so many dead, his torment echoed throughout the township.
You've done nobody any harm. But here it is. I've lost a family.
36 freshly dug graves. The final act of Boipatong's terrible family tragedies will end here tomorrow morning with a mass funeral, a haunting monument to the specter of political violence in what's supposed to be the new South Africa. Martha Teichner, CBS News, Sharpeville.
Who are you going to call the most this month?
My dad in New York.
My stockbroker. My 7-year-old grandson who is a genius.
With Sprint's new program, The Most, you'll automatically save on whoever you call the most each month.
My sister Aura.
And with The Most, you'll also save every time you call one of the millions of other Sprint customers.
My brother Bubba in Sanford.
I call my mother in London.
My mother-in-law.
I think I better leave that one alone.
Code for 148, 1900, Fowler, 19. 81, clear. 814, clear. You two, is the 30
Of all the things around your house that need batteries, there's one thing that needs a good, fresh battery most of all. See your Allstate agent for a free home fire safety brochure. And please, check the battery in your smoke detector often.
Everybody needs some money sometime.
To send money fast, call 1-800-CALL-CASH or come to any Western Union location.
Something in my heart just told me my son.
Western Union, fastest way to send money.
It could start in your office, in your home, over lunch. But now, wherever heartburn starts, this is where it ends. Introducing new Maalox Heartburn Relief Formula. No ordinary antacid works like this one to put out heartburn.
What is Sunday without 60 Minutes? Terrible. So we're going to spend the summer giving you a second look at the stories you loved the first time around.
The U.S. Supreme Court's long-awaited decision on abortion is expected tomorrow. The justices are to rule on the constitutionality of Pennsylvania's strict abortion law, which requires a 24-hour waiting period, requires women to tell their husbands, and requires girls to get parental permission before having an abortion. Hundreds of thousands of gays and lesbians took to the streets today for gay pride parades in cities throughout the country. AIDS activists, ethnic groups, and political organizations all marched to show their support for gay rights and gay pride. Galvanized by the AIDS issue, gays and lesbians are more politically active than ever in this election year, and the candidates are paying attention. That's our Sunday cover, as gays come out and find their place on the political landscape.
Staple gun all those across the front.
This year, more than 100 openly gay and lesbian delegates will attend the Democratic National Convention. Lynn Greer of Columbus, Ohio, is one of them.
We're going to be a force to reckon with in November.
They'll represent a constituency which hopes to flex its political muscle.
The gay and lesbian vote is large enough and can be concentrated enough in terms of voting as a bloc that it can make a tremendous difference to the candidates that's able to capture it.
Right now, the man who's capturing their attention is Bill Clinton.
I have a vision, and you're a part of it. I believe tomorrow will be better than today if we act. And we're all a part of the same community, and we'd better start behaving as if we are.
The videotape of Clinton's address at a gay fundraiser in Los Angeles last month is now a feature attraction at similar events all over the country. Gay and lesbian activists are campaigning hard for the candidate they say supports their agenda on AIDS and other issues.
We're concentrated in some very key states in the United States with respect to this election. So we offer him a lot of votes. And I think we can vote very much as a bloc.
Undeclared candidate Ross Perot seems to have belatedly recognized that. After first declaring he wouldn't put homosexuals in sensitive positions in his cabinet, Perot met with gay leaders privately on a recent trip to California to listen to their concerns. The Republicans, by contrast, continue to stress so-called family values.
They seem to think the family is an arbitrary arrangement of people who decide to live under the same roof, that fathers are dispensable, and that parents need not be married or even of opposite sexes.
Even if gays were to vote as a bloc for Clinton, political analysts are not sure of the impact.
I think Clinton's speech to the gays in California helps him in California, probably helps him in New York. But I think he is risking a backlash from the Bible Belt part of the country.
Whether or not the gay vote is a determining factor in this fall's election, one thing is certain. The lesbian and gay community is demanding its place at the table, and it's being heard.
We're part of the pie. We count too. And we're no longer going to be silent. And we're going to be out there and we're going to be counted.
Analysts are uncertain just how much political power gays wield, but they're estimated to make up 10% of the population.
At Ford Motor Company, we don't just build quality cars and trucks.
Customer Assistance Center, how may I help
We build relationships. Our Customer Assistance Department assists over 4,000 people a day on everything from warranties to how to program a keyless entry system. It's part of a whole philosophy at Ford that's rapidly changing the ownership experience.
Well, it's important to us that you're happy with your car. Thanks for calling Ford.
Ford Motor Company. Quality is job one.
It's working.
It's working.
Maybe it won't save the planet or make the whole world a better place.
Don't suppose you'd want to help me paint, would you?
Sure, Grandpa.
But today, Will Bartlett made a choice that'll help keep a small part of the western sky the way it was meant to be. New Glidden Spread 2000. The first interior wall paint with no solvents that could harm the air.
Let's get some paint on that roller.
Glidden, a better way to paint.
I need a laxative that can work dependably.
Doxidan can.
But can it be gentle?
Doxidan can. Doxidan works dependably overnight with a special ingredient for gentle relief.
Dependable, yes. Gentle, yes.
Doxidan can.
How am I supposed to fall asleep with this pain? I could take one of those nighttime pain relievers with a sleep ingredient, but all I really need is Advil. Advil is so effective, it relieves the pain, so I can get to sleep.
Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Following up on its upset election victory last week, leaders of Israel's Labor Party said today they expect to form a coalition government within less than 3 weeks. Bob Simon has more.
The Israeli election was a mandate for change, and the changing of the guard began today. Leaders of the defeated Likud party, which has ruled Israel for 15 years, held one of their last cabinet meetings. Israel's president summoned leaders of the victorious Labor Party to begin consultations on forming a new government. The man of the hour, future Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, said his first priority is peace.
The first priority is the negotiations with the delegation of the Palestinians from the territories.
Rabin promised to freeze Israeli settlements in most parts of the occupied territories immediately and to implement an autonomy plan for Palestinians within 9 months. Moderate Palestinians liked what they heard.
That's what we wanted to hear for a long time, and that's what we were hoping for, that there will be a government that acts what it says and says what it acts.
But there were quick signs of how hard it would be. In the 5 days since the elections, 3 Israelis and 3 Palestinians have been killed. In Gaza, radical Islamic graffiti writers called the murder of 2 Israeli civilians a gift to Rabin. Israeli extremists, West Bank settlers, were just as troubled about the future. As a feeble gesture of defiance, a group of settlers plonked down some houses on an arid hilltop. But they had lost the day, and they knew it.
It's a national tragedy for the people of Israel and for the land of Israel.
But other Israelis were riding on a wave of hope. In Tel Aviv, the people of the book went to a book fair tonight. They were strolling and browsing and dreaming, dreams which seemed barely imaginable until last week.
It's a chance for peace.
I think it's very, very good for Israel.
By luck and design, the Bush administration got the Israeli government it wanted. It can now be expected to work closely and publicly with Israel's new leaders to help the peace process, to help its own prospects for winning over some Jewish votes in November. Bob Simon, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
Won't anything stop this itching fast?
Lanacane shuts off every itch, like a switch. Only Lanacane works on contact with itch nerves that cause every itch. Not Benadryl, not hydrocortisone.
Lanacane does shut off the itch, like a switch, fast.
You may have heard recent allegations concerning Sears Auto Centers in California and New Jersey. I want you to know that we take such charges very seriously because they strike at the core of our company, our reputation for integrity. Sears Auto Center customer satisfaction rate is among the industry's highest. But after an extensive review and painful soul-searching, we've concluded that our incentive compensation and goal-setting systems may have created an environment in which mistakes have occurred. To guard against such things happening, we've eliminated incentive compensation for the folks who recommend auto repairs, and we've changed their role to that of customer service advisor, and we'll reward them for keeping you satisfied. When this critical issue of trust is at stake, we feel we can't merely react. We must overreact. We're totally committed to maintaining your confidence. You have my word on it.
To pull her through a nasty lunch, Mylanta uses aluminum and magnesium, but his antacid is Tums, and Tums has calcium.
Something my body needs anyway. I like that.
Calcium-rich Tums.
Recapping our top story, 2 powerful earthquakes, one of them the strongest in 40 years, rocked the Southern California desert east of Los Angeles today. 1 child was killed and more than 150 people have been injured. The quake buckled highways, damaged buildings, and knocked out power, and residents are bracing for more aftershocks. The U.S. Olympic basketball team made its debut today, trouncing Cuba at a qualifying tournament in Portland, Oregon. 4 of the 10 teams will advance to next month's games in Barcelona. Our Bill Geist has been wondering about the odds that the U.S. won't be one of them.
If you're the kind of sportsman whose idea of fun is fishing with dynamite, you're going to love Olympic basketball this year.
And now, the United States of America.
The U.S. Olympic team took the floor for the first time today. The Dream Team, the greatest amalgam of basketball talent ever. Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley. The team is frightening. We decided to use our best professionals on the Olympic basketball team after the Soviets beat us in 1988. Is it possible we overreacted? I mean, Larry Bird is probably going to be a sub on this team. The Venezuelan team seemed a bit ill at ease last week, preparing for a possible matchup with the U.S. Coach Julio Diaz thinks of the U.S. players as aliens.
They are not human beings. It's another plateau, it's another galaxy of basketball.
The Soviet Union and Yugoslavia have given the U.S. team problems in the past and could again this year, if they existed. How do you think Norway is going to match up? The competition in this week's qualifying round includes teams like Mexico, Uruguay, and Panama. Nothing wrong with Panama. Great bananas love their canal. It's just that the combined height and personal income of our 12 players is greater than that of their nation. The press tried to conjure up a little suspense last week by focusing on an injury to Patrick Ewing's thumb. Sort of like pointing out there's a bug on the windshield of Norman Schwarzkopf's Jeep. I suppose it'll be fun to watch for a quarter or two, but it's not sport exactly. It's more like duck hunting with Patriot missiles. You know the old adage, you can't win 'em all? Just watch.
The final score, by the way, was the United States 136, Cuba 57. That's the CBS Evening News. Later, join Bill Plant with the CBS Sunday Night News. I'm Edie Magnus in New York. Good night.
On America. Sure, she's a grandmother, but she's also a thief. Why, if they can afford to pay, are so many people driven to steal? Eye on America on the CBS Evening News tomorrow. This is CBS.
Every year, over 47,000 pints of blood are needed in central Iowa. Summer can be one of the most critical times when blood supplies run low. That's why TV8, along with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Iowa and the Blood Center of Central Iowa, are sponsoring Blood Donor Day. Once again, we're calling on you to give the gift of life with your donation of blood.
On Wednesday, July 1st, you can join our blood drive either at the TV8 studios or out here at Valley High School in West Des Moines. The blood donation process only takes about 45 minutes, and the needle's only in your arm for 5 to 7 minutes. Remember, blood cannot be manufactured, and there is no substitute, so we need your help.
Join us at TV8 or Valley High School between noon and 9 p.m. for the 10th annual Blood Donor Day on Wednesday, July 1st. Your donation can save the lives of 3 people, so please